can't tell by that thumbnail, today we're talking cheap ways to get started winter camping. Welcome back, guys and gals. My name is Matt. If you guys are new here, this channel is all about hiking and backpacking. I talk a lot about gear. I'm Canadian and I go to some pretty sweet places in the Rockies. So if any of that sounds interesting to you guys, please consider clicking on the subscribe button. This is part of a compilation video that is going on with a ton of different other backpacking YouTubers. We're all going to be talking about different tips and tricks for winter camping. So I will put links to all of their channels down below in the description for you guys to check them out. Hopefully you guys, pick up some tips and tricks along the way from all the different channels and all the different videos. I had every intention of filming this in my yard today outside, but the weather that we've been having is really not cooperating with me. Every time it snows here, it warms up immediately. So my entire yard is a sheet of ice right now. And for the sake of safety and not wanting to break my neck, we're going to film this one inside today. I know from my own personal experience and talking to a lot of other people, the cost associated with winter backpacking gear can be a huge deterrent. And essentially what we're going to talk about today is how to take your summer gear and extend it to get yourself out in the backcountry. So let's talk about shelter systems first a little bit. The only thing I'm going to say about shelter systems is unless you're going out into absolute blizzard situation, your 3-season tent will probably do just fine. You may get a little bit more draft inside because your fly doesn't go right down to the bottom, but you can pile snow up against your rain fly to create that snow break, and you can use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start out talking about ground insulation, then I'm going to talk about your top insulation, and in the end I'm going to talk about a couple other tips and tricks to add a little bit of the warmth to your sleep setup in the backcountry. All right, let's talk about ground insulation. What I got here, this is my Thermarest Evolite. This is my plain 3-season sleeping pad. This is an R value of like 3. I think it has an R value of 3. I don't actually know what the R value of it is. But I know from personal experience, I can take this sleeping pad down to about -5 Celsius. Any colder than that, and this sleeping pad just doesn't cut it. But there are a couple ways that I can boost the R value of this sleeping pad. So let's talk about it. The first method we're going to talk about, and I'll fully admit, this is not the way that I boost the R value of my sleeping pad, but I do have friends that do it, and it's a really cheap way of doing it, and I know it works, so I thought it was worth talking about, is using this. What this is Reflectix. This is essentially hot water tank insulation. So you can basically get this at any hardware stores like Home Depot, Lowe's. If you guys are American, Menards. I know Menards is American. So, you can probably get this at Menards, but don't hold me to that. But I know you can get this stuff at Home Depot. So you just, get yourself a sheet that's going to be big enough to fit underneath your sleeping pad. You lay it on the ground underneath your sleeping pad, put your sleeping pad on top of it. Gives you a little bit of a boost the R value of your sleeping pad. Obviously, like a sheet like this is not going to be big enough and it's not going to work. This is actually going to be for a Reflectix koozie that I'm going to be making because the cat destroyed my other one. So, that's what this is for. But I thought it was worth talking about. One thing that I have noted from some of my friends' experience with using Reflectix, so obviously something I do suggest trying this at home first before actually using it out in the field. And I suggest that for any of the tips I'm talking about today. Try it at home, try it in your backyard in a controlled situation. That way, if my tips and tricks do not work for you, then you can just go in your own house and warm up. You're not, hiking back to your car in the middle of the night in the cold, cursing my name out. Some of my friends have noted condensation issues with certain sleeping pad materials with the Reflectix. I don't know which certain sleeping pads were doing it off the top of my head. So like I said, try it out. But yeah, the Reflectix is a way to, you can boost the R value of your sleeping pad, and it's pretty cheap. Another ridiculously cheap way is just adding one of these. This is just your plain blue closed cell foam sleeping pad that I'm sure everybody has seen, that you probably see at any outdoor hiking, backpacking, sporting goods store. This one here, this is not my full length. This is actually the dog sleeping pad. I don't know where my full length one is. It's buried somewhere in my storage room, so this is the only way I had. But you can use one of these. You can get them in gray and yellow, and I know Thermarest makes them. They have the ridge rest and all that. Those work just as well too. But with the Reflectix, just lay this on the ground underneath your sleeping pad, put your sleeping pad on top, good to go. And with that as well, you can actually stack 2 sleeping pads on top of each other. So if you've got 2 different Thermarests, you can do that to add some boost of insulation underneath you. I don't actually own a winter sleeping pad. I just supplement with the blue foam pad. And I've, gotten down with literally with my little Thermarest Evolite in a blue foam pad, I've gotten down to -30. I was warm, so it does work. Ground insulation, it came to stacking sleeping pads. Top insulation works exactly the same way when it comes to stacking sleeping bags. Now, everything I'm going to be talking about here today right now is associated with down sleeping bags. That's simply because, honestly, I don't even own synthetic sleeping bags. All I have is down, and all I've pretty much ever used is down sleeping bags over the last like 15 years. I'm fairly confident synthetic is going to be the same, but you know, if you've got experience with stacking synthetic sleeping bags, maybe drop some comments down below, and you know, we can, you know, maybe help out some people who've got questions about that. But essentially with down, the way that down sleeping bags are rated is based on the loft. So it's basically like how thick the down is that like piles up, and it just associates with how much warm air the down traps. So when you go and you look at how much loft is required for a sleeping bag to essentially be rated to, say, 20 degrees like this. We got an Outdoor Vitals Summit 20-degree sleeping bag. So the loft associated with a 20-degree sleeping bag compared to, say, the loft associated with a negative 30-degree sleeping bag, if you take two 20-degree sleeping bags, it equals the same loft as a negative 30-degree sleeping bag. So when you take a 20-degree sleeping bag and say your 20-degree UGQ Bandit top quilt, and you slide the top quilt inside the sleeping bag like so, and then you climb inside, you've essentially created a poor man's negative 30-degree sleeping bag. Now, it's not an exact science. Like I said, with the sleeping pads, try this out at home. You know, like make sure that this is going to work out for you. Make sure that, you know, your sleeping bags can get you down to those temperature ratings. I mean, I know from my personal experience that like this setup here, yes, this can be a negative 30 setup for me. It does work. I've experienced it. I've done it. But like I said, try it out at home. So taking a 20 degree and a 20 degree, or a negative 7 Celsius and a negative 7 Celsius gets me down to negative 30 Fahrenheit, which is about negative 30 Celsius. Taking a 20 Fahrenheit and a 30 Fahrenheit can get me down to about negative 20. And then taking a 30 Fahrenheit and a 30 Fahrenheit gets me down to about negative 10 Fahrenheit. Stacking sleeping bags is a great option. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit heavier. It adds a little bit more bulk to your pack, but when you're getting started out in winter camping, you're looking at, you know, the prospect of dropping, say, you know, like $700 to $800 on a like 30-degree rated winter sleeping bag. I think like most people, going with this setup and carrying a bit of extra bulk and, you know, the pound and a half of carrying your 20-degree top quilt, I think it's worth it. So it's just something to look into. It is an option out there to, you know, help extend the temperature rating of your sleeping bag. If it gets you out there and it gets you to experience winter camping, and it gives you a chance, you know, you can see if winter camping is even a thing for you before you go dropping that kind of money and go and invest in that kind of money. We've got through ground insulation, we got through top insulation. Like I promised you guys, we're going to talk about a couple other tips and tricks for extending the temperature ratings and, you know, boosting the warmth and creating a little bit more comfort in your winter sleep setup. It's not so much going to boost the warmth of your sleep experience in the backcountry, but it does add some comfort, and it absolutely does help cut down the condensation in your tent. And I'm talking about one of these UCO candle lanterns. If you've never seen one of these guys before, this little contraption folds up. It's got a handle and it's got a little hook on it, and you will hang it from the top of your tent or whatever. Now, don't use it in a hammock because it hangs too freaking low, but you know, in a tent it's great. This guy slides up. You got this little protective glass cover that can slide down. You can light your candle. So you've got a candle that's about this long that sits inside this thing, and it's like a 9-hour slow burning candle. So you light it, slide the little glass piece up and hang it up. This is not a tent heater by any way, shape, or form, guys and gals. Well, it does create a little warm spot at the top of your tent. Like when you sit up, you will definitely notice the heat coming off this thing, but like it's not going to make your tent warm, but it does help cut down the condensation, which is awesome. One of the downsides of winter camping is dealing with condensation on the inside of your tent. So, you know, having one of these is a pretty cheap, inexpensive way of helping cut down that condensation. Another really cheap way of adding a little bit of warmth to your sleep setup in the winter is adding one of these simple packable throw blankets. You get them really cheap at Costco, and this one here happens to be the Lazy Bear synthetic throw. But, you know, you can get one of those like little Costco down throws or whatever. They weigh like a pound. They pack down super small, you know, toss it in your pack, whatever. One of my personal favorite ways of keeping warm for winter camping is carrying one of these guys. I'm sure if you guys have seen any of my summer videos, you guys know I'm a huge lover of the smart water bottles for my water system. But in the wintertime, I think carrying a Nalgene is one of the smartest things you can do, simply because a Nalgene handles hot boiling water without an issue. So what I do every single night before I go to bed, boil up a liter of water, pour it into my Nalgene. And one of the biggest tips that I can give you if you're going to use a boiling Nalgene bottle in the wintertime, and I've seen it happen to a couple of my friends, so I think it's worth pointing out, make absolute sure you check the inside of the lid for any little bit of ice that may be inside there. What I've seen happen to a couple of my friends is they boil their water, they go and thread the lid on, they do the upside down test, it's fine. The hot water inside melts that layer of ice, and now all of a sudden you've got a gap. They throw it inside their sleeping bag, half the bottle leaks inside their sleeping bag. Hiking out in, minus 20 at 2 in the morning because, friend's sleeping bag is completely soaked and it's going to be a really rough night. So hot water bottle is a great way to boost the warmth of your sleep setup. Now, personally, I never go with just the hot water bottle. I will always carry a spare pair of socks, and this pair of socks is not for my feet whatsoever. Like in an absolute emergency, if it was the last pair of socks I have, yes, I would wear these. But when it comes to a winter camping situation, I carry a pair of wool socks specifically for my Nalgene bottle, and I will basically just put the wool socks, stretch one sock over and put the other one on the other way, and it creates a nice little an insulated koozie for the Nalgene bottle and just helps keep that water warm longer. And the advantage to that as well is in the morning you're going to wake up with a liter of water that's not frozen. Well, if you guys are still watching, you guys obviously want more tips. I got one more for you guys. This is an SOL Escape Bivy. This is one of those really, really cheap emergency bivy sacks you see at your MEC or your REI or any of your outdoor retail or whatever. I picked this one up for $20. This just permanently lives in the very bottom of my winter hiking pack. But yeah, it's just a little cheap bivy or whatever. It's got a little a foil kind of layer inside. You basically just slide your entire sleep setup inside these things. It covers you up. Kind of works the same way as your rain shell does for holding heat in. That little reflective gray layer holds a little bit more in. So another great cheap way of boosting the rating of your sleep setup. Like I said, this just permanently lives in the bottom of my pack. So it's always there if I need it. That's all we got for this one today, guys. If you guys got any questions at all about any of the gear or any of the tips that I've talked about today, feel free to drop them in the comment section. I'd love to help you guys out a little bit more if I can. Like I said at the start, please go check out all the channels I'm going to be linking down below. There's going to be a whole bunch of different tips and tricks coming out for different winter backpacking and winter camping scenarios. So please go check those out. Big thanks to Dan and Rob for getting the ball rolling on this compilation. It was a ton of fun. And, if you guys are looking forward to some more winter camping stuff from myself, please let me know. And, up over here, you guys are going to see TP camping in minus 20. I did a winter camping trip recently with a couple buddies. It was a ton of fun. Hopefully you guys check that one out and enjoy. But as always, guys, I am Maddie. Thank you all so dang much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.